Hey, it's Dee from Twinflame Stories podcast. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, let me give you a rundown. Basically, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Here's how it works. Anchor lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to the most popular listening platforms, including Spotify, with a single tap. Anchor is also the only place you can publish video podcasts to Spotify. With Anchor, creators can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hi, it's Dee from the Twinflame Stories podcast. Welcome. The Twinflame Stories podcast is a place where you can listen to stories from other twin flames and where you can share your own journey. If you'd like to share your own journey, please write to me at d@denisetaylor.me. I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I'm a one-person production, so please understand it might take me time to respond. Please be sure, if you'd like to share your story on the podcast, that you change the names of people and places if you don't want those to be used publicly. I also have a community on Facebook that you can join called The Collective. The Collective is a group that offers daily divination, monthly energy clearings, a monthly live card reading session, and a personal one-card read each month. In addition, it's a platform to ask, receive, and lend a hand to other twins as they navigate their journey. You can find out more about the paid subscription to The Collective by visiting denisetaylor.me. The link will be in the show notes. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Good morning, everybody. This is episode 6, and this is Dee. Good morning, or good day wherever you're at, what time of day it happens to be for you. So I just wanted to start by telling you that I learned a few things since the last episode. On the platform where I create my episodes for you guys, there is a way to edit, but the only way that you can edit is by segmenting what you have. So say I was talking to you guys and something major came up and there's this big blunder in there and I wanted to take that piece out so it's easy listening for you. The only way I can do that is to segment the podcast and turn it into different segments. Well, I did not realize that you guys, at least on this particular platform, can see the titles of the different segments. And once they've already been published, there's no way for me to change it. So the early podcasts say crazy things. Like I think the very first podcast I did has probably, 10 segments in it, but they're all like numbered 222 of 2. Like it's craziness because of the way I had to segment it out. Anyway, so I totally apologize for that. If you guys happen to notice that and you're like, what in the world does this mean? When I'm creating them down from now on, I will do my best not to have it so it's needs to be edited. Hopefully we'll keep it as raw as we can. And secondly, if there's something major that comes up and we do have to do some editing, hopefully this platform will change that. But if we do, I'll try to name the segments so they make sense. That would be helpful for you guys. All right, so in review, last week I just read some of Mary's diary to you guys and let you know that Kim is offering pranic healing, one session, a relationship healing for anybody who's interested in that. And to get more information or for me to send on your information to her, just go ahead and you can email us at twinflameauthor@gmail.com. And we'll get that information over to her. It's totally a gift from her. There's no strings attached to it. It's just the one time. So just let us know if you are interested in that. And of course, we're always looking for more people to share. I do have some really super exciting news. We did have one person that wanted to share her story and was able to write it and send it over prior to today. So we get to read that today. And it's from Miranda. And I just want to say thank you, Miranda. This is amazing. When I opened her story yesterday and I read it, I started to cry because I could just feel what she was saying about how it is with her twin and the pain that comes with it sometimes, and also the beautiful joy that you experience. So I hope you guys really enjoy it too. And Miranda did say that she is going to try to come on later on in the future. So we'll be very excited to have her. All right, so let's get started with Miranda's story. I've met a few soulmates so far. Some were pretty painful experiences, but now I understand that they had to happen for me to realize and not let go of my twin flame when I finally met him. I met my soulmate, Dan, 12 years ago. It was love at first sight. We were so much in love for the first 3 years. Until things didn't work out and he left me for someone else. My fault too, as I lost interest in him as well. I just felt that I was too young to settle down. We were both just 20 years old. But the whole experience taught me a lesson, and I swore to God that if I do ever have a chance to meet my twin flame one day, I will fight for it and I shall never let him go. Because the soulmate Dan appeared in my life to show me how an unconditional love looks like. I felt like he was my child. I felt like I wanted to take care of him. It's a strange feeling, but I feel like I was a child too. Anyway, time went by, and I was swept away by my ex-husband, who I know for 10 years now. He pursued me, and although I wasn't ready to trust anyone after my soulmate breakup, he had a strong masculinity in him that convinced me that he was different. We got engaged in less than a year, had a baby a few years later. My daughter is one of my soulmates as well, and now I understand why I married my ex-husband, to meet my little soulmate Sarah. My ex-husband found someone else too, and he asked me to separate a few years ago. It was painful for me at first, but I guess some part of me was still searching for my twin flame, someone who will make me feel like how I felt when I first met my soulmate Dan 12 years ago. And funnily enough, I met my twin flame James in 2016, exactly 12 years since I last met someone who has come close to a twin flame relationship. James and I had no intention of falling in love with each other at first. After my divorce with my ex-husband, I couldn't become serious with anyone anymore. Well, so I thought. It wasn't a love at first sight thing at all. We actually fell in love at the same time. The first time we talked properly, it was like we couldn't stop talking to each other. We started sharing our childhood memories, and things started to come up that were quite parallel from each other's lives. We ended up talking for 3 hours the first time we met for drinks. I had to go home at midnight, so I left. I didn't tell him I was a single mother just then. But the next morning, I thought that wasn't cool. So I told him honestly that I had to go home back to my little girl. The next coffee session went on for probably 5 hours. That was when we both fell in love. I don't remember the exact moment, but that was it. He even got my daughter a little snack for me to take home to her. The third time we met, we talked for hours again, and when it was about time to go home, he kissed me. This is how our relationship started. Our first 6 months was a honeymoon period. He told me he's never felt this way before for anyone, and we are over 30 already. We were so much in love. Every time we met, it was like the most beautiful thing that had ever happened to me. We could just be sitting on the couch sipping wine or having a nice dinner out. It really didn't matter. And this is quite personal, but I've never had good sex in my life. I kind of gave up on that area until I met James. But I still had things to clear that I hadn't been able to do, things I had to work on, and that led us to our first breakup. He comes from a very traditional Catholic family who will never allow him to be with a divorced woman with a kid. So he has never introduced me to his parents, even to this date. His siblings and best friends all know about me, but his parents, no. My friends started to tell me he's not serious about me. I listened. Yeah, what kind of guy hides me from his parents? I didn't listen to my heart. He cried and sobbed as he told me he couldn't do it anymore. He said he was sorry, but he had to stop. I pushed him too much when he wasn't ready, so we stopped. I cried for 2 days. I couldn't stop crying. I shouldn't cry in front of my daughter, Sarah, but tears would automatically roll down my cheeks. She asked me, "Mommy, why are you crying all the time?" I knew I had to stop this, but how? Then I stopped crying. It was such a simple thing. The reason I was crying was because I was trying to stop myself from loving him. I was trying to move on, to give up on my twin. The moment I decided that I will continue loving him, my tears stopped. Strange, isn't it? If this was any other relationship, it won't happen. I don't usually get back with my ex. This is the first time I wanted to work on a broken relationship. I didn't contact him for weeks, actually because I know we both had big deadlines to work on, and funnily enough, our deadlines were on the same date. So after that, I asked him casually out for dinner. My heart was going crazy. I didn't know if he will respond, but he did, in a bit in doubt at the beginning. When I saw him, it was like his soul had half disappeared. I was so worried. I asked if I could kiss him. He rejected at the beginning, but in the end he accepted, and gosh, how much I missed his kiss. And yes, after a week from that, we were back together again, and it was great again. But since I haven't completed my clearing, I have lost myself once again, this May, around our birthdays. Our birthdays are only a day apart. This time I thought, I'll lose him forever. I really did. I was crying and crying. But he made up his mind to give up. I gave him time. I stopped contacting him for about a month. But every day I wondered if he's okay. When I'm not working or talking to my daughter, I would think about him. Then I finally had my clearing. I realized how selfish I was and how I did not believe that he was working for this relationship as well. I became judgmental, and the moment I totally lost him, I realized that I just want to be with him from now on. I wanted to live now, to live this moment with him. I didn't care about anything else. I have to continue this journey with him while I pursue my dreams, while we both pursue our dreams. So I emailed him to ask him for dinner, and of course I was going to lose my mind. He might not respond. He might have already moved on. But his reply came back in less than an hour, and he was happy to have dinner with me. And just like that, we started meeting up for dinners, and yes, now we're back together again since August. Every time we meet, it's like I fall in love with him all over again. We've traveled to many places now, and every time we do, we feel like we're teenagers. I just don't know how to get angry at him. It's like loving your own child, and you want to do everything you could for that child. I recently told him that he's my twin flame. I don't think he really understands what it means yet, but I will slowly lead him the way. There are still clearings we need to do, but I'm happy to say that my journey is still ongoing. I want to encourage everyone who has found their twins or are in search of them that you will be with them one day. But when you do, you have to realize that love is sacrifice and patience. Follow your heart, and of course I have lots of fears, like he might run away again, or other negative things, but I still keep my positivity. I know that he is my twin flame, and he has made me a better person for sure. I pray that we will have a loving relationship with one another, and that more and more twin flames will unite and make this world a more peaceful place. And then she goes on to say, "Thank you, Dee, for having me on the podcast. Miranda," and kisses. So that is Miranda's story. And I just kind of wanted to reflect on it a little bit. First of all, thank you, Miranda, for sharing that with us. And I didn't edit anything. I didn't change your language because I wanted it to be you today. And I know it's a little difficult sometimes to read in somebody else's language, their presentation. So we'll get the hang of it, but hopefully I did your story a little bit of justice, and it's such a beautiful story. So I just wanted to reflect on it a little bit, and how she talks about how she met her soulmate, Dan, who taught her a lesson about what was to come. And it'll be so interesting to do an interview with Miranda, because I'd really like to ask her, when she figured out what a twin flame was, did she know that ahead of time? Or did it come later after she had met these people? And did she think Dan was her twin flame back then? Or did she just know he was like a soulmate for her? For me, I had somebody similar who was a soul catalyst, is what I call him, and obviously a soulmate, but a soul catalyst who definitely gave me the lessons that I needed to be where I'm at today. So I can definitely relate with that. And to read about her little Sarah coming to her as her soulmate, you guys, I cannot express enough how our relationships in this earth are extensive. People, when you walk by somebody and they're a complete stranger, and suddenly you feel this connection to them, they could be a part of your circle. They could be somebody that you've had many interactions with in the past. And the old term about, serving angels unaware, that basically everybody you come into contact is that person. You are serving and loving and smiling and being kind to all these beautiful souls that are walking around us. And I think it's fascinating that this little soulmate, Sarah, came to her as her child. That absolutely happens. It happens with siblings. It happens with parents. It happens with friends. And it can happen with perfect strangers. Absolutely. And I think, for me, this is my personal opinion, that's where one of the paradigms lays, is that we are so programmed to think it's weird to want to connect with strangers in that type of way. Like if we were to go socializing and we were in a similar circle, say we went to school, to a college, and we met people there, and we like gently begin to fit into different patterns. But what if you're in a grocery store and you walk past somebody and that person feels like they are someone to you? Or what if it's like a friend of a friend? Or what if it's your best friend's husband? I'm just pulling some really strange circumstances where our society would look down on many of those types of things. Like, you can't just start a conversation with somebody in the grocery store and expect it to last, expect it to grow into this full bloom of a friendship and enjoy them as a soulmate, because that's strange. Not to say it doesn't happen, because that is what happened to our dear friend Kim. She actually met her twin in a grocery store. But there's also, you guys have probably heard of them, and I believe that they're either very strong soulmates or possibly twins. There's a older gentleman who met a very young girl. They were on the news. The little girl was going past with her mother, past this man, and this little girl was, I don't know, maybe 3 at the time. I can't remember exactly, but she called out to him, and they became like fast friends. And this older gentleman said he has his own grandchildren who are very interactive in his life, but there's something about this little girl that's different, that she fills a different capacity for him And this little girl is so attached to him. That's what I'm talking about. So I think for us to pay attention to those types of relationships and be honest and straightforward as much as we can about them. And I know a lot of times it can come across like weird for people, uncomfortable, and not always for the person that it's happening with, but the people that are involved around it. Like maybe your friend says, but that's so weird. Why do you think that? Or maybe somebody they know is like, isn't that kind of strange? I mean, imagine if it was your best friend's husband and you felt this connection, and say of course, our society is still very grounded in male and female pairings. And we know that's not happening that way. The paradigm's shifting. But we still have this ingrained thought that if you're a female and this person over here is a male, and there's some sort of soul attraction, that means that we must come together, we must get married, and we must have sex. And it could mean none of that. It could absolutely mean none of that. You can definitely indulge in a soulmate type of friendship with somebody without getting married to them, without having a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, without having sex with them. What I would explain it as, and it makes more sense with same-sex couples coming together now, but it would be like the old paradigm is like, if I'm a girl, then I can have a friend who's a girl because that's safe. For some reason, society has put this limit on us, that it's safe for me to have a very best friend who I can tell all my secrets to and have adventures with and even get on mission with. Kim and I certainly do things together that are definitely pushing toward mission. So, and society says, that's fine. You can do that. We're cool with that. Because that is the old paradigm. But what if that person, my very best friend, became a man who is married to, say, my good friend? That would be weird and uncomfortable. So you guys see what I'm saying there? But that is societal standards. And I'm not saying to go and steal somebody's spouse. I'm not saying anything like that. But these new relationships are going to push the boundaries. That's what they're supposed to do. They're going to build a new paradigm where it says unconditional love is unconditional. And unconditional love does not necessarily equate to sex and marriage. So, just a thought. So when I was reading about this little girl that came into Miranda's life, that's where my head exploded. And I was just like, this is great. This is a beautiful lead-in to something I definitely think we should talk about. And I want you guys to really just pay attention to it and not be afraid. I know it's scary. It can be totally frightening. There's actually a co-worker of my current mate, my current soulmate, who I have a very strong connection with. We don't have a lot of physical connection at this time. We have a limited amount. It's like within societal expectations. But I definitely feel that amazing soul connection with this person. Of course, he's a male. And in no way am I sexually attracted to this person. And I don't look at it in that sense. But I do feel like when I'm with my soul group, my very close soul family, my very close soul sisters, many of them are soul sisters, but this is probably my first soul brother that I would say is not the same sex as me. And I would love to have a close relationship. But anyway, what I was saying about that is that when I'm with them, I feel like I can gain some positive energy from their presence. And if you're a twin and you've been in the presence of your twin, or even if you're communicating online, any kind of communication with them where you're connecting in the 3D feeds you that kind of energy also. And I'm sure, like, if you're a twin, that's where you feel it the most, because they're the strongest. They're the ones who give you the biggest power boost. But you can also feel that with your soul group, your very close ones who are right tight in that circle. They can give you that same kind of positive energy. And so that's what I feel with this person, is when I'm close to him and I can have these casual interactions, which are safe in society, I gain that energy from him, and it feels good. It feels so good. And I wish that we had a tight, close relationship so I could spend more time, especially without the presence of my twin currently in the 3D. I'm currently without that energy flow here in this hard earth. So anything that my soul group is willing to share with me is helpful. They help to balance me out and share that energy and give me the good vibe, so to speak. So I just wanted to tell you guys, don't be so afraid. Maybe somebody needs to hear this today, that you can just go forward. Maybe ask that person that you feel that connection with, hey, do you want to do coffee with me? Maybe you can pick their brain a little bit and ask them about their belief system. And if they have, excuse me, if they have similar, I'm losing my voice, if they have similar belief systems as you, then you could connect at that level, and you might even be able to share with them that, hey, I think you're a part of my really close soul group, and I really love the way your energy feels, and I'd like to spend more time with you so I could be in that kind of energy, depending on where they're at with it, but your heart will know what you should say. So just don't be afraid to pursue that. Okay, so then we go through, we talked about Sarah. So then we talk about, Miranda talks about coming together with James. And she talks about the first 6 months, like a honeymoon period. Most twins do have that happen to them, where they have like a bubble phase. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back again. All right. I have a real life, and I am actually waiting on an appointment, so I thought I heard somebody, so I just had to pause. I do have a few more minutes, so I just wanted to get into this. Okay, about the honeymoon period. So most twins do have a bubble phase. That's beautiful. It's incredible. You may still have some feelings of low, like a really high, being really, really high when you're close to them. And then if they're not right next to you, you may start to feel very low. So you can still experience the highs and lows during that bubble period. But during the bubble phase, this honeymoon phase, what it is like an activation of your energies coming together. And it really is like an insight to what it would look like if you could completely merge together. You're not completely merged together, but it's sort of like a little taste test. Like the universe is saying, I just want you to know this is what it's like if you guys can merge more fully. So it's usually typically a very beautiful time, and just so much energy and so much love. And like Miranda says, if it's a sexual relationship, I've heard it's pretty good. So probably better than anything a person has experienced before. But not because the person knows how to do anything different. What it is because the energies are flowing and swirling together, mixing together. Okay. Then we go on to where Miranda talks about her twin being from a traditional Catholic family. How many of you, be honest, shook your head and were like, really? Okay, I know there's people out there thinking this, but this is so common. You guys, this is the paradigm right here. This is the paradigm sitting in front of us. James is from a Catholic family, traditional Catholic family, and that is a strong paradigm. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to be in that paradigm, but what we're going to do is we want to stretch the borders of paradigms. We want to instill that unconditional love. And unconditional love does not delete a person because they've had something happen, or they've had a past, or they have a history, or they've gone through a life experience. That isn't how it works. Okay? So that's what the purpose of this to happen. James, what I would believe, James chose with Miranda in the lifetime when they were still, before they incarnated here in this lifetime, they chose certain paradigms to fall into. Miranda says, listen, I'm going to get my soulmate Sarah from a person I marry, and he's going to leave, so I'll be open for you. And James is like, okay, I'm going to go into this Catholic paradigm, and I'm going to attempt to shift the borders of unconditional love for them. And then they both come down, they do their jobs, they come together. Guess what? We have this paradigm in the way. We have this blockage in the way. This is real. This is hard for people. This is where we get stuck. And I totally understand this part of it. It can be anything. Your blockages can be a lot of things. It's like endless. There's an endless amount of paradigm blockages that are there on purpose so that we can grow them, change them, shift them, push the borders back, and make it a more beautiful, peaceful place. So what's happening between them in that moment right there, I believe, the big brushstrokes were planned that way, so that this beautiful couple, could come back together and push the unconditional love into the world by not accepting the boundaries that are set. And if that means that Miranda's living her life day to day, then amen. Amen, girl. You just embrace that. I think it's such a great way to live, and love is never wrong. So if you just keep strong in the love, eventually those paradigms will shift. There will come a point where James will be ready to push back the border further. Even just James being with Miranda has pushed back that border. He's already stepped in. He's already shifted the paradigm just by being with her, by embracing that moment. And I think that's where sometimes we fall into the downside of it, is we think, if I don't shift it big, then I must not be doing something. I must be doing it wrong. Something's not correct. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. Did I do this right? Maybe there's still too much in the way. But that's not the case. Every little piece, every little getting in there, even me stepping out and doing this podcast, every little piece that we move forward moves things in the right direction. So I want you to give yourself a pat on the back, love yourself, and just realize how important what you're doing is. So Miranda, thank you incredibly much for giving us the story, for letting us talk about it. And I cannot wait to have you on the podcast. It would be the most wonderful thing. So I'll leave you all with that for the day. Again, if you have questions, you can email me, twinflameauthor@gmail.com. If you want to share your own story, you can either write it to me and I'll read it, like I did with Miranda's, or you can come on the podcast and I can interview you and ask you some questions about your story. This is definitely what we want to do, is share how we each are experiencing this so we can embrace the light. All right. Well, again, I thank everybody, and you guys have a super good day. And I have to be off to my appointment now. So have a great day, everybody.